Running early. All right.
I know he's been coming early.
What kind of world is this?
I know.
It's like 2 minutes ago. That's not early.
It's early. And like, you know, it gets into that world coming to an end.
A lot of what's in here. Size of it. Still. Still clean up. One minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the City of Hannibal official council agenda, Tuesday, July 19th, 2022, council chambers, 7 p.m. I'd ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Council members Welch.
Here.
Beach.
Here.
McCoy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Here.
Councilmember Franke.
Present.
Mayor Hark.
Here.
And Councilmember Phillips.
There being a quorum, I'd call this meeting to order. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson, will you do the invocation, please?
Glorious God, you promised to open the doors of blessing and abundance for your people. We ask that you would work mightily in us today. Come upon us and cause us to have a productive meeting. Lead each one of us so that we can make fruitful contributions at this time. Enable us to think and strategize in ways that will achieve great results. Purify our thoughts and motives so that each one of us will enter this meeting desiring the good of others and the pleasure of your name. Amen.
Corporal Lockenberger, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, at this time, I would ask for a motion to amend the agenda ever so slightly to include the approval of minutes of the July 5th, 2022 meeting. That is provided you received a copy of those and have been able to review them.
I'll make a motion to approve the additional minutes.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now, with that, I'm asking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended and posted this Tuesday, July 19th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Council, this time now, I'd ask for a motion to approve those minutes of the regularly scheduled council meeting of June 21st, 2022 and July 5th of 2022.
I move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion over the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Next, I'm asking for a motion to approve the payroll and claims for the first half of July 2022.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion over payroll and claims? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. First item on the agenda, Jonathan Robinson from the Y Men's Club of Hannibal. Okay. Looks like there's according to my clerk, there's just been an amendment to the Down by the River that you're here asking for. Date changed from August 19th to the new date of August 5th.
Yes, and then we would need, we had August 3rd as a regular meeting, meet August 4th instead for set up and regular.
Okay. And council, we've already approved some of these events passed. Obviously, all the proper documentation is in order. So is there a motion to approve the amendment?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That was,
Thank
that
you.
was an easy one.
Yeah. Well,
And you just know. Next on the agenda is Sarah Antone North, Citizen 45 Holiday Drive. Hey, how we doing tonight?
Up and running.
Awesome.
The councilman and mayor have copies of the state statute that defines how to create a CID. We ran out of ink, that's why there aren't more. Please note, I do this so that I don't ramble to print. No. It's important to note at the outset that, generally speaking, there's an overarching understanding that small or special taxing districts have their place in a community and can affect positive outcomes. Many of the downtown business and property owners were involved in or remember the role of the levy district within the collaborative effort to fund the levy. My presence is intended in no way to imply that this concept is a bad idea. At the very first and at subsequent hearings intended to inform and educate folks about the planned community improvement district, there was mention to those in attendance that all involved are stakeholders, a now frequently used term seeming to imply that all participation is equal. Candidly speaking, that simply isn't the case. Property owners create a category of risk takers. The business owners to be included in the proposed CID are also risk takers. Others involved might consider themselves to be stakeholders, but without those willing to self-impose risk, there is literally no place for stakeholders. The distinction is not negligible. I come to you as a risk taker, as both a property and business owner. Our proposed participation is vastly different from those who consider themselves to be stakeholders. Thus far, our paper has covered the presentations held at the public hearings through the lens of unquestioned enthusiasm. Again, to you, there is enthusiasm. However, that enthusiasm is balanced by many unanswered questions that have not been mentioned in coverage that you may have read. Please also be aware that easily fewer than 1/3 of the affected property owners have attended the 2 previously offered hearings or meetings. It makes sense, given that the first was held during business hours, and the second hearing was in the books before many property owners received the notices. Because the design of our system of government is to have boundaries between the strata of city, county, etc., boundaries governed by elected representation, I am here to ask you to please attend the public hearing scheduled for next Tuesday at 6:30 at the new Mark Twain Museum location. In terms of your every other Tuesday evening council meetings, I know it's a huge ask. Yes, there are specifically 2 council members on the Economic Development Committee, one of whom is, by the aforementioned standard, a risk taker. Thank you, Councilman. However, the conversations potentially at play come from constituents throughout our community. This ask is simply because the job description of elected representation is inherently different than that of those hired to fill the role of public servant. There are several potential discussions under consideration. As Lisa has mentioned, after 30 years, there is still no line item in the city's budget for the levee's pump system maintenance. Hence, the possibility of a levy district seems to be returning to be in play. Added to our newly increased sales tax, added to the potentially increased sales tax for those in the CID. Your ears would be appreciated. To be entirely candid, and I am saying this because Frank, who is more level than I said, it's okay. From the beginning of this process, it has felt that we are expected to fund a party to which we will not be invited to participate as decision makers. Thank you. Hope to see you next Tuesday.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is Bianca Quinn. And you're here as assistant to the finance, however you want to call it.
Whichever hat I'm wearing today.
Whatever hat you're wearing today. Well, speak to us, Bianca.
As I mentioned in my memo, we have a few corrections to the fiscal year 23 payroll ordinance. Salary for the finance director, police management assistant was misstated on the payroll ordinance as $63,000. The correct salary should be $63,807.84. That was due to the fact that we failed to include the 3% raise when I was appointed in June. It was a clerical error on that. Also, 7 firefighters were inadvertently omitted from the ordinance and will need to be added at $36,640.57. This occurred, I believe, because those 7 people were on a separate sheet of paper. I think just hit that sheet of paper, but we caught it, so I need to go ahead and add it. Both of these corrections do not require any budget adjustments. They were clerical errors on the ordinance. All of these salaries were budgeted for correctly. We also have 2 requests from Police Chief Naki. He would like to add 3 auxiliary officers at $10,815 each as part-time officers, as provided by Section 23-1. These positions will help offset overtime costs and shift shortages that we're experiencing at the police department. This will not require any additional funding, as the cost will be offset by the overtime savings and possibly some grants that he's looking into that we can get to help cover that. He would also like to convert the police custodian part-time position at $11,652 to an office assistant 1 part-time position at $17,740. This change will better serve the department's current needs for additional clerical staff. This change will also not require an increase in funding, as the police budget is able to absorb the additional $5,818. I ask for your approval for amendment number 1 to the fiscal year 23 payroll ordinance.
I think I have a question.
If I may, the conversion of the police custodian to the part-time office assistant, is that the same employee?
No.
Okay,
That isn't, the police custodian part-time position is currently unfilled. So we just
That's
converting.
why.
Yes.
I'm struggling to understand the wording here.
Sorry about that. I'll make that more clear.
No, quite all right. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question too.
Yes.
The auxiliary officers,
Mhm.
who are they? Are they mainly retired folks who are coming back in?
Chief, do you want to address that?
I guess to answer your question directly, we have those positions haven't been addressed yet because we haven't had the funding mechanism in place as far as the payroll ordinance. Looks like the city approved the position of auxiliary police or the chief the ability to appoint such people back in 1988 or so. So we've actually had officers working at, you can either call them the reserve or auxiliary capacity for a long time. It's just a lot of times they weren't paid. So with that, we'd be looking to offset some of our many overtime projects that we have to do, like parades, various other festivals are contracted overtime with part-time personnel that wouldn't cost us nearly as much, and they would be benefit eligible either. So it would really reduce some of the strain on our staff. We have we're really short 5 people right now, and with that, when you ask them to come and work an extra 4 hours after they've already worked an extra 8 hours, it can really be detrimental to the morale of the officers. And if we can find some people that are willing to work on a part-time basis, we can alleviate some of that and reduce some of our costs longer.
So you've helped me understand something. So they're not quite, and I'm trying not to be pejorative here, they're not quite full police officers, so they don't have the same training per se.
No, they'd have to meet the job description of a police officer, and they'd have to be certified under the state and then follow our policies and undergo all mandated training as required by our department. It's spelled out in our policy specifically, but they'd have to go through and sign off on all of our critical policies. And we'd have to have training, annual training, and they would have to be trained with the same mandatory trainings we have to go to as well. So.
Thank you.
And Chief, as an auxiliary officer, they carry full weight and authority of your time regular police staff?
Yes, they'd be a certified
in other
police
words,
officer.
for arrests, stops, and so forth. They're on par with your regular police crew.
Yeah, they would have the same job description. They'd have to be post-certified, which is the Missouri licensing system for enforcement. So they'd have to go through
So
all
they
that.
can act independent. They're just, for all intent and purposes, of all the powers of the police.
Yeah, really the only thing different in here is that they would be considered part-time. So they wouldn't be under the pension. They wouldn't receive insurance. So they'd be limited to hours.
I see. Thank you.
I'm probably the only one in the room old enough to remember 1988. We were reserve officers then, and they worked part-time. And at that 88, 89, there was a change in state statute required the additional training standards for reserve police officers, and that program was dissolved because, frankly, the reserve officers at that time didn't want to put themselves through the training and then volunteer their time, and it was quite understandable. But I think what you're doing here is a good effort to alleviate some of the staff shortages. And there are people out there that maybe cannot commit themselves to full time, but would still be interested in working part time. So it's great.
And to answer your question, it's more fully, if there was a retired officer or something like that from our department, it'd be beneficial to us as well. They'd have the working knowledge of our stuff. So I wouldn't want to exclude people like that, but I don't want to limit it either at this point. I want to kind of see how this program works. So.
Okay. That'll be Bill 22-020 to follow. Anything else, Bianca? All right. Thank you very much. Andy Dorian, Director of Central Services.
Mayor,
Good
Council, handful of things again tonight. So we've been trying to buy trucks now for a year, and it is quite the process. Back in April, you guys approved a half-ton truck for an administrative truck for the Parks Department. A week later, we were told no deal. That truck is no longer available. So we've been working with the state bid contractors since then. It was brought to our attention that Blue Fuse was going to be able to have 3 of them made available to us. So we asked them to hold 2. And so as you see in the price, they were $35,000 a piece, $70,148 total. That has since went up in the last week. And so the new price is $37,544, total $75,088. So that's for those 2 trucks. You guys also approved a 1-ton snowplow truck a little while ago. That is no longer available either. They took in 160% of their sales in 11 days, which usually takes 6 months. And so many cities did not get a truck. So we are on a waiting list for that. No telling how long. So I would like to go ahead and purchase these 2 Dodge 1500 Tradesmans if they're still available. And these 2 trucks will be used for Parks administration. So I can answer any questions. it is the Wild West with vehicles.
Andy, would it be advantageous to approve a set amount that you could purchase those trucks at any time that they became available?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, and I talked to you about this, for the next council meeting, I'm going to bring a memo forward with that request.
Okay.
What we kind of want to look at is a blanket memo to order the 1-ton truck up to a certain price range. Because what we're finding out is you'll get a dealer go, hey, I got one, just showed up. Are you in? And we go, no, we got to wait 3 weeks. There's no way it's going to be here in 3 weeks. So it's not something that we normally like to do, but in this case, it is a shot in the dark in trucks right now.
Something important too is, and I don't know if everybody got to read their packet, was that you've used your personal vehicle to the city's advantage, all these years, and it was hit the other day and not covered by city insurance.
Right.
Had to be covered out of your own pocket. So it's important that a city vehicle be obtained that Andy can be using his daily rounds of the city.
And that'll be an administrative vehicle that stays here. So I think Lisa could use it as well, or anybody here.
Gas or diesel?
They're gas trucks. Yes. We typically don't buy diesel. We have a lot of issues with.
Okay. So there is a request for Andy to purchase these vehicles at the state bid price of $37,544.
I will make a motion and hope they're still available.
For a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried on that, Andy. The next item.
This one's a big one. So when we were discussing the riverfront renovation project, one of the biggest things was with the new marina was the dredging of the marina. Hiring a dredge company to come in is extremely expensive. Just the mobilization of a dredge alone can be $50,000 to $100,000 just to get them here. So it's very expensive. So we have been discussing now, it's been a long time, 5, 6, 7 years, about purchasing our own dredge whenever this time came. So we're there. We went out for bid for the purchase of, it's called a Mudcat MC 115D dredge. It's a 15-foot digging depth, 8-inch submersible pipe. It includes all the hoses, quick floats, on-site training. The reason we like these guys have been in business for 65 years. They're from Kansas City. So they have their on-site mechanics or maintenance people can come here at any point in time. We went and toured 2 different dredge site companies, looked at their dredges, talked with their people. Since this is such a big purchase, we really wanted to get on the ground and actually see what we were going to get. Biggest reason we like this one, just because it's got a long history, is it has a cab. So we envision doing a lot of our dredging later in October and November when boating season's over. So this has a cab with heat, allows us to go all the way up until frost time. So our plan is to be able to dredge every single year. Because a lot of times what happens is when you wait 5 years to dredge, that 5th year, you're down to 6 inches of water in the entrance of the marina. This way will allow to have proper depth throughout. So the bid price came in at $296,742, and we did budget for that.
That's for parks?
That's from parks, yes.
Okay.
So, I'm going to sound like a dork, but do you have to dredge in addition to the marina where the cruise ships and tugboats come in?
We do not. It's really deep there. So some of those areas are 40 feet deep. Yeah.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens in the marina is, it happens in most marinas on a river, the water back eddies in, and that silt builds up in the entranceway. And as it builds up, it builds up. So a lot of times in the very back end, it's okay, but it's the entranceways that get really backfilled. And then when you have a flood and it gets really high, it just drops that silt deposit in there and it has nowhere to go. So the other issue that we have here in Hannibal is the Corps mandates us to locate it in the dredge containment site. Some cities in Missouri are allowed to blow it back into the river, which is significantly cheaper to do. But we've got to hose ours about 1,800 feet. And so that's an added cost, but that's Corps mandated since they designed that however many years ago, back in the 50s. So.
This unit here, it's mobile, or how we transport it?
Yeah, so we do two different ways. You can buy a trailer and trailer it out just like you would a regular boat. You can leave it in the marina. We haven't decided that yet. We're going to kind of see when we get in. The trailer for this one through the deal was $32,000, and we said no, thank you. And they kind of winked and laughed. They're like, "Yeah, you can do a lot better than that." So we're going to, once we get it, and make a decision. So how we're going to.
Andy, I was looking over the sales contract on the Mudcat, and it shows a 1-year warranty. Is that I don't like extended warranties, but do they have any other options besides 1 year?
We asked, they don't. I mean, what they tell us is this is a pretty basic piece of equipment. It's a big diesel motor with lever and some pipes. So the good thing is they got on-site technicians, and they really said our mechanics should be able to fix a lot of things.
That was the next.
Some kind of weird electrical or something. So it's basically what it does. It's
I'm quite familiar with the dredging.
Yeah, just an auger that sucks it up and then slurries it out. So.
Having said that, I spent many years as a salvage diver up and down the Pacific coast. So I'd like to know if you'll allow the council to be the operators on that 5-day training, and I'd be more than happy to.
We would gladly accept
break
that.
out the gear and
Yes.
dredge for you.
Yes. Your counterpart, he's going to snowplow this year, so you're hired. So, yeah.
So moved.
Another question, Andy,
Yeah.
because a couple of private lakes or ponds have come up on the radar of the city in the past, that this would be for city use only and not for private enterprise or private endeavors. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, we can only use it for public endeavors unless you guys tell me different. So.
So Andy's asking for a bid award approval. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried, Andy.
And the weirdest part of that whole thing is we're supposed to be able to get this thing in 30 days. So go figure.
But you can't get a truck.
No, well, you can't get anything but a big, massive dredge.
Probably not a whole lot of demand for those.
That's true.
Interesting.
Next are some traffic committee recommendations. Traffic committee met here recently. First is no parking on the west side of Hazel Street from Grand to Rock Street. What's happening is it's a very narrow road, and when two vehicles are parked on both sides of the road, emergency vehicles are having a real hard time getting through there. So it's a small section.
It's very, very narrow
At
there.
the very end. Same thing on a very small section of Ann Street. It's on the very small section of Ann Street. We had some complaints from the person that lives at the very back, sent pictures. The day I went up there, I couldn't get my Jeep through. I can't get my Jeep through. My truck couldn't get through. So that's it. It really only impacts 3 people. So, and then the other one was made at the request of the riverboat charter buses. When they are going up to Rockcliffe and they make the turn from Stillwell onto Hill, when cars park there, they can't make the turn. There's nowhere else for them to go. They can't turn left. They only go right, and they're getting blocked there. It's becoming quite the problem. So we want to just block that 100 feet on both sides, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., June 1st to November 1st. And that way, they'll be able to make their turn out and get on.
Essentially, that's right across from that intersection. Make it
Become that T.
correct.
They'll turn left, and then they can only go right.
If there's no objections, the traffic committee recommendations go through. There's no voice vote unless you all have a particular concern with any of this. Okay. And last item.
This one's an exciting one, long awaited. We recently opened bids for the Union Street Stormwater project. As I think most everyone knows, it failed quite a long time ago. We've been going through the process with CDBG, which has been quite a lengthy process. This has been a city and Board of Public Works endeavor. Lisa diligently worked on getting this emergency grant, and so we went out for bid, and it was a low bid of $705,634 submitted by TMB Trucking and Excavating. We did several vettings. Everyone kind of raves about working with them. So on the reimbursement side, the city has been awarded $616,350 for the construction portion of the project. And there's an additional money for the engineering, design, administration part of it. So the new infrastructure sales tax will need to be used to cover the rest of that amount. Plus, the street department has to come in and put the road curves and sidewalks in. So that is in front of you.
Do you have a start date on that?
We do not yet. So it still has to go after this back to CDBG. So I could not guess. Yeah.
Just part of the process.
As soon as we hear, though, let you know.
And this construction contract, will they honor this contract through?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a federal contract. So
okay. Deal. That'll be resolution 2423-22 to follow unless anyone else has any questions at this time. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Council.
Next on the agenda is Mike Murphy, the building inspector. Only one item.
Evening. Here tonight to request a public hearing for the rezoning of 100 Home Cedar Drive. That would be for the August 16th council meeting. And it's currently a B zone. They want to go to R plan, C residential.
Requesting a public hearing be set, as you said, Tuesday, August 16, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. Is there a motion to approve that?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Thank you. And Mr. Darren Gordon, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I'm coming before you this evening. Back 3 years ago in May of 2019, the BPW passed a policy that helped to define what is the public responsibility for stormwater and what is private responsibility. It then goes on and takes the public responsibility and divides it between what is the city's responsibility and what is the Board of Public Works responsibility. The easiest way to define that is to simply say anything above ground is the city's and anything below is the BPW's. It was still a little bit foggy, and Lisa helped bring this to our attention, and we've been having a meeting. It's a coordination meeting between the city, the BPW, and Corey Mahaffey of the HREDC, and it's been a great meeting. We've got a lot of things done, and in that meeting, we have discussed how to clean this up. In front of you, I have provided you a copy of the old policy. We've made approximately 3 changes to that policy. And of substance, I'll just share that with you. One of the items was floodgates. And we had kind of broken that up. There's a total of 6 floodgates. They said 2 of them would be the cities, 4 of them would be the BPWs. We really don't have much to do with that. And so the city said it'd be appropriate that it would be the city's responsibility. So they've taken over all of the floodgates. The stormwater basin, or the flood wall storm basin, was the city's, but it said it was the flood wall storm basin plus the pumps and associated items. The city doesn't do a whole lot with pumps. They do plenty, but we're pretty much the professionals when it comes to lift stations, pumping water, moving water. We know that a little bit better, and so we're taking that responsibility ourselves, and that makes absolute sense. The final item is that the city had culverts under roadways only. And again, there's a definition of what is a culvert versus what's a bridge. And they felt that that is underground. We agree that that is underground. And so any culverts that are underground, that will be the responsibility of the BPW, but not a bridge. And so we went to MoDOT and we have added a definition of what is that. So in the new stormwater policy, it says, per MoDOT definition, a culvert is less than 20 feet long, a bridge is 20 feet long or greater, and with a culvert, the roadway is supported by dirt over the top of the culvert. So this helps us in any situation. If we've got a road that's been washed out and there's a culvert there, it's determined if it's 20 feet or shorter, that's our responsibility. We'll take care of the road. We take care of that, becomes ours. Anything greater than that, per this document, that's the city's. And so it takes this kind of a foggy line and it defines it very well. And what we have done is in May of 20 this year, we brought this amendment, which Lisa and Mike Dobson's been at the meetings, and Andy's been there, and Matt Munslinger and Corey. We've gone through this. We agree that this is the right thing to do. My board passed it on May 20th, 2022, and we've signed it. That's what you have in your packet. And I will kind of pass it off to Mr. Lemon as to what you want to do with it, whether you want to adopt it as is, how you want to do. And at this point in time, I will be quiet and answer questions and let James tell us what you get to do from here, if you wish to.
Well, James, do you have any insights? Or?
If it's acceptable to the council, I mean, I think you can accept it by vote. At the most, I think resolution, you're not going to need to adopt it.
So, should we get a clean copy of the document that has the definition referenced, just written in here, and then do?
Sure. There's a clean copy in the packet.
Is there? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This was
Yes.
just okay.
Yes.
That's the original.
Right.
It was just sitting here.
No, I understand. I'm just explaining what. Mayor, if the council, and I think it's perfectly appropriate to adopt the policy tonight. Set as you deem
I'm inclined to agree when it comes to matters of policy that voice vote should be adequate in this case, especially when this is city and city. So we're working with a outside.
Right.
It's a city and city working together here.
It's obviously a state statute that says any agreement with the city needs to be in writing. In this case, it's an agreement with yourself. In my legal opinion, that does not have a formal separate contract.
Appreciate
With,
that.
with that, I thank Darren for pushing this forward and make a motion to.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have lots of discussion. Thank you. James, would it be improper to codify this as a resolution or as a ordinance?
Yeah.
But the reason I ask that is that my opinion is that I'm not thinking about Darren and Lisa, Matt and Corey and Mike. I'm thinking about 10 iterations from now where this might have gotten lost to word of mouth knowledge. And I personally, as somebody who hopes to still be around in 20 years, would like to have that written down. official charter code of ordinances context. So nobody agrees with that, so be it. But respond, go ahead. But I have further questions too.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
I guess my suggestion with this, I agree with you that sometimes we have a tendency to lose things that are done just by policy. I'm not positive that ordinance is the appropriate way to codify this. Now, I don't have at my fingertips a better suggestion. I'm just a little bit worried that it's a little clunky to put into the ordinances, and I'm not a little uncomfortable as to where exactly we put it. If we wanted to go that route, I'd have to think about it and think about, how would we work that in, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not trying to say that it would be improper to do it. But that just off the top of my head, that's my.
I'll move right ahead. If anybody wants to come back to it, please do. So the pumps specifically, which might be a little off topic, but I don't think completely. Who's paying for it? Is it sewer? Is it water? Stormwater doesn't currently have a funding source, so.
Right. Okay, so thank you very much for the question. We're going to be going back to the community again in April of 2023 to seek for a funding source. So at this point in time, as we have any of these things that are going on, we do not have money to repair them. And it's actually falling back currently to the city, and they're making those repairs. So we've had some of those culverts in the streets that have gone, and Andy and his crews have been the ones taking that. So right now, if we were to have a problem with those motors, we really do not have a way of repairing it. However, I'm going to take this as an absolute unpaid opportunity to solicit. We are going to the vote of the people in April of 2023. We're taking this document, which helps us to put a number at the cost of what we need to be doing. We are having Black & Veatch, an engineering firm, giving us the accurate estimate of what we need to seek for that funding. And so we're going to be educating the public. We're going to be going to the vote of the people so we can get that funding source so that we can be responsible for all of these items, which we do have the responsibility for. And it's been, I can't quote the year, but we've had this responsibility. We've gone to the people several times. We missed it by 12 votes the last time. So we are hoping to increase that, get that, and educate the public as to what we can do once we get that funding.
If I may, it also may be relevant that the pumps have just been rebuilt also, so they should last for a good 20 years. So what we're really talking about at this point in time is, kind of an annual maintenance schedule.
Thank you. That's exactly, and that's going to be added to that cost, but there's a real cost to it.
James, would it be improper, if not outright illegal, for water and or sewer to incur expenses if it's over the long term? I know the short term arguments.
Here's the thing. The storm sewer department beneficiary. It would be illegal to ever pay that back. That's certainly not the intent. That's part of why they need a source not breaking. Make a valid point and probably a good point that if we don't figure something out, it's a breach of our fiduciary duty to ratepayers that electric money should not be spent on storm sewer. So, but as of right now, the way that's being accomplished, which, in my opinion, it has not gone so far problematic yet. I agree that the state of source reasonable period of time it can become problematic.
And so efforts like these and efforts to go back to the voters can be secure that funding source and stay the
Absolutely. If we don't do it, it will be a problem. Figure out a way to fund this. And part of the problem is EPA and DNR have basically mandated dump these things on the city. Have to meet particular water quality standards. we're not alone. Hopefully,
Can I add one thing to that as well? We have also recently done a lease purchase in order to our new electric line substation. Those bond covenants or lease covenants that we have for that electric loan has said that if we take and use this for anything other than what it's designated for, so they have very effectively dried up our option to even borrow from the electric for that. And so it's gotten even tighter than what James has already discussed.
One last thing is that the above ground, underground solution is the simplest. I'm glad you found it. It seems like that task force you guys are working on together is very effective, and I'd like to be a part about it, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Aaron?
Yes.
About BPW's responsibility on the underground portion and, of course, with the pump station or the pumping and so forth. The maintenance on this is a documented on file. In other words, the maintenance that you perform, whether it be yearly, twice yearly, that I imagine is a documented inspection form.
No.
That will be on file for us to refer to in case
it is
this
not
20-year thing, 20-year gray area about incurring possible costs down the road. We had that a regular maintenance schedule.
We would, so there's a couple of items. First of all, we cannot spend, again, Hancock rule, James can speak to that, we cannot spend money for anything other than, right now, we've used it for emergencies. That's really what we've spent this money for. We have not done any maintenance because we don't have money to spend on maintenance. We need to survey and find out exactly what we've got in the ground. We've got to spend money to do that. We can't do that. So as we go to the citizens on April of 2023, first item we're going to do is we're going to do a cleaning and a survey. That cleaning alone, the estimate from Black and Beach from a previous effort came back at about $1 million. So just going in and cleaning it, we have not done it. You're going to look, if you go out to the storm drains right now, they're full of sand and guck and all kinds of stuff, but we cannot right now today do that. So when you're asking for records of what we've done on operations or maintenance of this system, we do not have any. This is a dire, if I could put a emphasis on this, I would put a great big huge exclamation point that we need to get this funding source. And in doing so, we're going to improve safety and the flooding and the things that improve it, what's going on in Hannibal.
And you don't see any kind of funding in the future after this is completed?
I hope it's a continual funding source. What we're looking at is a tax that's associated with property that would be collected by the county. That's what we're not done yet. We've got steps to do. We've got to figure out what the cost is going to be. We're going to take it to some citizens groups to find out what's going to work and be able to take the very best option to the community. That's yet to be done.
Tax is the first step. There are many, many, many steps after that, including and not limited to more funding even.
Yes.
As we all know, a tax decreases in value over time as it rises. Not only that, it's tax and this is fair, equitable. So it really is just a start.
Thank you. Couldn't have said it better.
Thank you.
Understood.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Motion second. Correct. Yes. With that, I'll make the policy approval of the maintenance responsibility of stormwater system. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Same.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Yes. And abstains.
Council members Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
McCoy,
Same.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Councilmember Franke,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Yes.
and Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, council, this time we have before us Resolution 2423-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2423-22, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute a $705,634 construction contract between the city and T&B Trucking and Excavating for the replacement of a 175-foot stone archway stormwater conveyance underneath Union Street. Councilmembers Welch?
Yes.
Beach?
Yes.
McCoy? Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Councilmember Franke? Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare Resolution 2423-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now have before us Bill number 22-020. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 22-020, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal amending the fiscal year 2022-23 payroll ordinance, number one, relative to the correction to the finance director, police management assistant salary, the addition of certain fire department salaries, and the addition of auxiliary police officer salaries. First reading.
This time, ask for a motion to adjourn. Second. Motion is second. In favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.